From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
Welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster podcast. This is your weekly podcast about consumption. We are proud members of the You Run podcast network. You can find all of our old episodes, all of our new episodes, all of our upcoming episodes, and all the other great members on the You Run podcast network at yourunpodcast.com. With me this week is another super happy, very enthused human being. His name's Sean, and he's the host of the Dewey Pod Monster podcast. And Sean, how are you today?
John, for everything that I'm going to put you through in preparation for this episode, I apologize in advance. And listeners, I apologize for what we're about to subject you to. I'd rather clean a short person's teeth.
I was going to say, you almost forgot a quote. So, well, before we break into our Easter special, which we didn't know was an Easter special until yesterday. So before we break into that and we get all sanctified and, well, I'm not going to say pure, but sanctified. Sean, what have you been watching this week outside of Christian Bible thumper movies?
Well, I mean, you know, you got to get that in too. It's nice to get a little bit of a little balance, this right? Season. You got to get a little devil on your shoulder to have a little angel on your shoulder. So, yeah. So anyways, I've been watching, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's on Netflix, Love on the Spectrum. So I've been watching Love on the Spectrum season 3, which is about people with autism that are looking for love, essentially. So
I've only watched a little bit of it, but I know I'm familiar with it.
It came out, season 3 came out at the time of this recording about a week ago, and my family, it's like a thing. We're looking for shows that we can kind of watch as a family, and this happens to be one. And we just ended up finishing it, so a little sad that it's over, but it's over, and we watched the full thing, and a good season. It's a good show to kind of, I think, shed light on, I don't know, on things that a lot of people don't have exposure to, you know, and they're all different variations on the spectrum. Some are a little bit more independent than other people are. So it's a good show. If you like that sort of thing, I would suggest it. It was a good season. On top of that, I watched Dark Side of the Ring because that's what I do, because Dark Side of the Ring is out now. So I watched the most recent episode at the time of this recording, and that is Ludwig Borga, who is the Hellraiser from Helsinki. I gotta say, I wasn't very clued into who Ludwig Borga was, but I think by the time he started wrestling, I think it was like early 90s, and I was already like out of watching wrestling. He was like this really big.
Discover the opposite sex.
I think I just fell out of love with wrestling. It was just too kiddie.
I feel like in general, a lot of kids grew out of wrestling when they discover women. And then they kind of fall back in love with it when they realize, like, women are good, but there's a lot of those.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know why I got back into it in the 90s, like late 90s. But anyways, regardless. Ludwig Borga, he was a wrestler. I guess he didn't really go very far, but his actual real life story was that he's Finnish, but he's also, what was it? He's like Swedish or something at the same time. And people in Finland looked down upon people that were maybe not all Finnish, you know, they weren't like 100% Finnish. And at the time it was like a big anti-migrant feel in Finland. And yeah, it was just really eye-opening. He leaves WWE. He wanted to become famous. Basically. He became like a bodybuilder, but he was too big. Like he was never really well defined. He probably had more of like a power lifter body than a bodybuilder body. And he did steroids and all this stuff. He ended up getting an SS tattoo on his calf. And I think he had it before he started wrestling. Idea. Yeah, not generally a good thing for the longevity of your wrestling career. And they didn't know about it, so he had to obviously covered it up. And he had a big feud with Lex Luger, and that didn't really go anywhere. Like, he just wasn't very charismatic. Like, nobody really gave a shit about him in the wrestling world. So he ends up leaving. He goes back to his country. He runs for government, and he gets elected on this platform of being very like nationalist and being like anti-foreigner and all this stuff. And he just says,
sounds familiar.
He just says whatever the fuck he wants to say. Like, it doesn't matter if
familiar.
Yeah, a little bit. He doesn't care if he offends anybody. And ultimately he was still doing steroids. He was like competing in not amateur, but like I guess, amateur boxing matches. He had been banned from the U.S., so he couldn't come back because he had gotten into some trouble with the law. And it was a wild story. Like, they talked to his ex-wife, who was American. You know, they talked to the regulars like Jim Cornette and a few other people. I think Jim Cornette was his manager at the time. So it was a pretty good episode. It was wild. It was pretty good. If you're into Dark Side of the Ring, this is another really good episode. So far this season, there's only been 2. There's been the Hell in the Cell, and there's been this one. Both really good episodes. And then lastly, the last thing I'll talk about this week is I talked about a couple weeks ago that I was watching Rad, the quintessential BMX movie of the 80s, maybe outside of BMX Bandits. And basically it's about a story, hometown boy makes good, right? They're going to do this BMX, I think it's called Hell Ride. They're going to just make this whole BMX course. And at first they don't want the local kid crew. They don't want crew to compete. It's all supposed to be professionals, and they do everything they can to try and not let him compete. And Lori Loughlin's in it, and Bart Connor. I don't know. Have you ever seen Rad before?
I'm like 99% sure I have, but I kind of blended in with like those movies like Gleam in the Cube and it's the other one with Roland, or maybe Roland's the one with.
Oh, Thrashin'?
Yeah, Thrashin' and like that whole era, like they all just kind of blend together to me. So maybe, probably, but I don't remember a lot of it.
They're very distinct for me.
They probably should be. I mean, those are 2 very different sports.
Yeah, but it was all the time when all that, whatever was like the popular thing, they had to make some kind of movie or try to cash in on it, like, you know, Break-In 2 and Electric Boogaloo and all that stuff. They try to do their best to capitalize on what the youth fad is. And it's not actually, it's kind of a groaner. Like the whole time I was like, this is so bad. Like it's very family. It's very like young adolescent, like 10, probably capturing 9 to like 13-year-old boys is the attempt that they were going for. And me being a 40-plus-year-old man, it didn't really hit as hard. I'm sure if I would have watched it like 30 years ago, I would have thought it was great. But at the time, you know, when I watched it, I'm like, this isn't great. Like it's very campy, very cheesy. There's nothing like offensive about it. It's just that it is so, I don't know, over the wall. It's so over the top and just cheesy to me at this point. I mean, I'd much rather watch something like Quigley, you know, real hard-hitting movies.
That's a fucking statement you just made there, and we haven't.
I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's true, but it's something I watched.
It's not. So.
Yeah. We'll get to it, John. What have you been watching?
So I did watch that Hell in the Cell episode of Dark Side of the Ring, and I won't spend too much time on that. If you want to hear more about the Hell in the Cell ring, go back to last week. Sean details it pretty well. But I will say, you kind of feel for Mick Foley and everything that he went through as a career, but in that, I almost called it an episode, in that fight, that match itself, it's like, holy shit, that guy should be dead.
Yeah, a couple times.
No, yeah, but no, he finishes the fight, so I guess, and still loses, but finishes the fight, so good for him. But yeah, like I said, I don't have a lot to add as far as what that's about, other than what you took from it. It's kind of straightforward. On the Netflix side, I did watch the new docuseries Gone Girls, which is about the Long Island serial killer. I wanted to watch it because, yes, the Gilgo Beach serial killer.
Beach.
Yes, him too. I wanted to watch it because that guy's still going through, like, he hasn't been put on trial yet. Like, he's been charged and they keep adding charges to him. So that's kind of interesting. To be honest, like, I knew of the Long Island serial killer before he got arrested, but I didn't really know a lot about him. He wasn't like, I don't know, a Bundy or whatever that's pretty well documented at this point. So I was kind of hoping to get a little more insight on him. And you kind of do, but I think a lot of, like, it's going to sound fucked up, but like a lot of the more gruesome details that you really want out of a serial killer documentary, I think those details exist. Like, I think the powers that be know those details and probably have them like up their sleeve, but I think we don't know them yet because he hasn't gone to trial yet. So I feel like them putting this documentary out might have been just a little bit rushed because they kind of do a lot to paint this guy's picture as like, this is definitely the guy who killed these I don't even know how, like, shitload of women and several guys. So they pretty much tell you, like, he hasn't been proven guilty, but like DNA says it's all but him, essentially. But they never really get into, like, outside of like he made these girls dead and they were, sex workers. You don't really know much past that, which, again, dark and screwed up, but it's like, well, what do you do? How do you kill him? All those, like, gnarly details that you get out of a serial killer doc, they're just not there. It's interesting. If you're interested in that case, I guess it's worth giving a watch, but I wouldn't say that it's, like, groundbreaking. I almost feel like they won't do it this way because they'll probably find a way to milk it into another, like, 3-episode docuseries. But I think, what they need to do is just add one episode at the end of this one and just give you the parts that you missed, because...
like a follow-up, end of the day, this is what...
Yeah, like I said, I really think they have the information. They just can't put it out there because he hasn't been convicted yet.
They don't want to pollute the jury pool or whatever.
More so than they already do in this. Because like I said, they all but say, like, whatever his name is, Rex Hillman or something like that, they all but say, like, he's guilty of this. And I remember that was the thing with, like, Manson when they started saying in the press, like, he was guilty while he was still on trial, and that, like, kind of fuck up a lot of the trial. I mean, he was still found guilty, but I remember, weren't they talking about, like, throwing the whole case out because of that or something along those lines? But
I don't know if I remember enough about his case to even answer.
But anyway, that's a thing. And then after watching Quigley, I felt like I needed a palate cleanser. And I'm not sure I achieved that because, a few months back, I found a box set of the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies. Apparently there's 3 of them. Not really sure why, but there's 3 of them. So I bought them all. It was like $5. And I learned pretty quick why all 3 movies were only $5.
The whole box set was $5?
The whole box set, all 3 movies.
Oh, nice.
$5
Great
for 3
deal.
movies. Yeah, well, that's why I bought it. And then I watched the first one. The first one's okay. It's just like a super watered down version of Scream, except not as good in any way. I went back into these, like, I remember Jennifer Love Hewitt and a hook. That's about all I remembered from these 3 movies. I think I had seen the first 2. I know I didn't see the third one. We'll get to that in a second. But the first one's just like, stupid teenagers. There's Johnny Galecki. Well, at least he died. There's like nothing super memorable about it. Like, there's nothing that makes you think like, oh man, I really need more of this. It's just like generic guy kills some teenagers and movie ends. Okay, whatever. Second movie comes around and it's more of a romantic comedy with an occasional guy that pops out and kills someone with a hook. It's very dumb. And I got really pissed off at it about halfway through because, spoilers if you haven't seen I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Hooker dude. They should have called him the Hooker Killer. That would have been a much better name for these movies. But for the sake of argument, Hooker Killer is like chasing, I think it's Jennifer Love Hewitt, into this store. And she's, banging on the door like, let me in, whatever. This is at night. And the woman comes to the door to let her in. And then she has to walk away and go get keys to unlock the door. I'm like, why the fuck do you need keys to unlock the door from the inside? Like, that's not how doors generally work. You usually can lock and unlock the door if you're on the side of the door that you're not protecting. I don't know. It just pissed me off. They don't trust
that shopkeeper to unlock her own store.
I guess
get those goddamn keys.
Right. So that one, it's just not, it's one of those movies that you watch and you're like, why does this movie fucking exist? There's like nothing interesting or good happening. You're not furthering these characters in a way that I give a shit about. I'm not sure I gave a shit about these characters from the first movie, and you definitely aren't helping with the couple that survived in the second movie. And then we get around to the third movie, and I made it like 20 minutes, and I had a really good nap after that. So it must be great, because I slept like a baby. I woke up at the end, and there were credits. I was like, well, this is the best of these 3 movies, because I slept through the whole fucking thing just about. So,
is Jennifer Love Hewitt in all 3 of those?
No, she's not in the third one. At least, okay. She's not in the third one from any of the parts that I saw. Maybe she sneaks in as like a cameo or like a picture on the wall or something. I don't know. But in the, like I said, the 15 to 20 minutes I stayed awake. And for the record, I'm watching this at like 5 in the afternoon. It's not like I'm watching this at 4 in the morning or something, like trying to force myself to finish these. Like, there's still sunlight out. And I still zonked out like no fucking problem from this. Like I said, it was a really good nap. I woke up feeling refreshed and was like, all right, now what? I don't even remember what I did after that. So yeah, if you're interested in I Know What You Did Last Summer movies, you can find them pretty cheap, but I don't know that they're even worth $5 that I paid for all three of them. And now we're getting a reboot for some reason, which of all the movies that have come out from the 90s and before, does I Know What You Did Last Summer have like a big fan base that's like clamoring for more I Know What You Did Last Summer movies? I don't hear them talked about that much aside from in correlation to the new one that's coming out.
Yeah, I don't really hear anybody talking about it. I think the scary movie parody things were probably the biggest bump that they got because, well, that also kind of took from Scream, but so did I Know What You Did.
Well, it took from that whole like, I don't know, Kevin Williams verse, I guess. Like,
yeah,
the first one was the Kevin Williams
genre.
Yeah, and I'm not against the idea of a teen slasher. Like, obviously, we have 2 decades of movies that we love that are primarily teen slashers, but it's just not interesting. And like, you can make a relatively uninteresting slasher movie, and I'll still like it. But you got to have like 1 or 2 things that really kind of like. You got to have like a really good kill or like, hey, look, there's a whole bunch of boobs running around or something to kind of hold
boobs
like,
on their own.
Yeah, whatever. And I've found enjoyment from less in slasher movies. And this one just, I don't know. I don't want to like say they're the worst thing ever made because they're not that, but I don't get what especially for 2 and 3, like why are these still, are they making that much money? I guess they're probably cheap to make because they don't really do anything other than get a bunch of like 20 somethings and have them wander around a fucking, fishing dock. But I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm not a big fan. Hopefully we don't have to watch those again and talk about them ad nauseum because I have a feeling we're about to do our like semi-annual movie where we just shit all over it and then move on to something else.
We'll see.
So I think that's a good place to take a break, though. We're going to go don our best Easter bonnets, and we'll be back to talk about the movie Quigley, because it's our Easter special now. Suck on that, Gary Busey. AI John here. Have you ever wanted to take a deeper dive on the mysteries surrounding the lives and deaths of notable figures?
I feel like I'm asking myself that every day, but I'm old and don't know where to get this kind of information.
Well, I've got the podcast for you. The Between the Facts podcast looks at the events that define their legacies, unearthing hidden truths, alternative narratives, and the theories that keep us questioning the official narrative.
Now, that sounds like something I can dig into. Where can I listen to this show?
You can find Between the Facts and a lot of other great podcasts at youronpodcast.com. I guarantee that you'll find something there for you. All right, we are back. And as mentioned, we are talking about the movie Quigley. This is a movie from 2003, and it stars Gary Busey. And we start with a third-party review, and this third-party review is anonymous. But they give this movie half a star out of 5, and this person says, I'm going to guess it's a guy because of what he says. And this guy says, shows you how far Gary Busey's career has fallen if he's doing foo-foo crap like this. Didn't he once snort cocaine off a dog or something? Half a star out of 5.
I just love that it's foo-foo,
I love that he brings up snorting cocaine off a dog. Of all the animals in the world, I don't know that a dog would be the preferred one to snort off of. I would think a snake.
What do you think would be? Like a snake?
Well, a snake that's not a venomous snake or like I don't know, python that just kind of lays there. Something like that. Long.
Put it in a cold cage and snort some coke off its back. Or whatever.
I can't imagine there's a lot of animals that are that excited to have you do drugs off of their extremities, but
yeah, they're not very conducive, I would think. Like hairy ones, you just lose it.
Yeah, I would think. So yeah, you'd have to go with some sort of reptile or lizard. So
yeah, or fish. Couldn't be alive though.
I was gonna say if they're wet, that's gonna
that's
not be
bad news.
Counterproductive to your cocaine doing off of animals. How long can we talk about doing cocaine off random animals before we actually talk about this movie? So,
I don't know. Let's see. How far can we stretch it?
I'm sure we could go quite.
I'm sure
Sean,
we could go forever.
Tell us about Quigley, please.
Okay. Well, I get the honors to tell you all about Quigley. So to find out
Sure,
what I really want to mention,
penance.
yes, something like that. I must have done something very bad in a past life. For that, we go to IMDb. We look up the word Quigley, and not Quigley Down Under, not the lady's
Quigley.
name, Linnea Quigley. So thank you. I'm sorry, Linnea. I apologize. We look it up, and we see that there's a movie from 2003.
You can do cocaine off Linnea Quigley with no problem.
Probably the best suggestion we've heard yet. Anyways, Quigley's from 2003. It's a G-rated movie. It clocks in an hour and 29 minutes. There is no popularity rating because nobody gives a shit about this movie. It gets a 2.6 out of 10 with 619 total ratings.
And that might be generous.
I think it is. We go to the storyline and the plot. We never know which one's which, but we go to the one on top because they wouldn't put it on top. They didn't want you to read it first. It says, a despicable person is reincarnated as a dog in order to atone for his life's big mistakes. And if we scroll on down, we see user reviews. We see the storyline, and it's pretty long. And anyways, it says, Archie is a rich and utterly despicable practical joker. He is 1 week away from playing a CD-ROM that will change the lives of his trusted manager, Dexter, and other employees forever when he is suddenly involved in a deadly accident. He quickly discovers that instead of entering heaven's pearly gates, he's being sent back to Earth to clean up the mess he created. Since he has an absolute dislike for animals, especially dogs, it's quickly decided that he should be returned to Earth as a dog, and not just any dog, mind you, but a fluffy white Pomeranian named Quigley. Sweeney, an observing guardian angel, will accompany him. He's the only person who will actually see the real Archie. Everyone else sees Quigley. He's given two very different assignments. One is to retrieve the CD-ROM before it's played, and the other is to help his brother Woodward and his family, whom he hasn't talked to in years. Quigley, a very confused Archie, has much to do and little time to do it. Also care of Anonymous. So thank you, Anonymous, for that.
So, outside of Gary Busey, or maybe including Gary Busey, is there anyone that you want to talk about in this movie? Yes, this movie. So, of course, we have Gary Busey. He plays Archie Channing. He is the star of every movie that we've talked about this holiest of holy months, I guess. I don't know. We've got regardless
Oz Perkins.
How much he's actually in them. So.
Right. Very true. We have Oz Perkins, who plays the guardian angel Sweeney. He's been in a few movies, but he's probably more known as being the son of Anthony Perkins. And he is the writer-director of Long Legs and The Monkey, two recent movies. We've got Christopher Adkins, who plays Woodward Channing. He's Archie's brother. He was in the Blue Lagoon, the pirate movie. It's actually called the pirate movie. He's in Wet and Wild Summer. He was a big 80s heartthrob. We also have probably the last person that you would recognize in this movie is Curtis Armstrong. He plays Dexter Pearsley. He is Archie's right-hand man. He was Booger from Revenge of the Nerds. He was in Better Off Dead. He was in Risky Business. He was in Moonlighting. Lots of stuff in the 80s. Yeah, a bunch of stuff. And he's from Michigan.
Is he? I didn't know that. That's kind of disappointing.
So I wanted to bring one thing up before we get started into the movie. I found an interview that Curtis Armstrong did with the AV Club, and they go kind of through his filmography and ask him about different things. The question comes to Quigley, 2003. You played Dexter Pearsley. He says, "Oh my God." AV Club says, "Yeah, sorry for dragging this one up, but this was a movie where you appeared alongside Gary Busey, who plays a software tycoon who dies and is reincarnated as a dog. Busey's such a weirdo force of nature that we have to ask about working with him." Curtis says, "It was just what you'd imagined. That's about the best way to put it. We were shooting this movie, which is a horrible movie, and he was supposed to come back from the dead. And he, of course, Gary Busey, supposedly had done this because of his accident. He'd been in an accident and died and came back. He showed up on a set made to look like heaven, and he looked around and said, 'I can't play this scene.' They were 3 days behind at this point, but Busey said, 'It's nothing like this. I've been to heaven. It doesn't look like this. The sofa's all wrong. The mirror is ridiculous. They don't even have mirrors.' It was ridiculous. He was completely nuts about the design of heaven. But on top of it, one of the guys playing an angel, had also died and come back. And this guy got into an argument with Busey about the way heaven looked. The two of them wound up coming to blows, and they had to send everybody home. So there you go. That's what we were working with."
They should have put that in them.
I know.
Two guys arguing over what the sofa in heaven looks like. I would watch that 100 times.
There's only two people that it could be. there is Tucker Smallwood, who plays Angel number 2. He's been in a few things. He has like a gray streak in his hair. He plays one of the angels. He was in Contact and an episode of Seinfeld and I think X-Files and a few other things. And there's one other guy, Clint Jung, who plays another angel. Those are the only 2 angels, unless it's Oz Perkins. And he's another, looks like a character actor who's been in a ton of shit, but I didn't recognize him. And I'm just fascinated with like behind the scenes stuff like that, where people, there's stories of like strife on the set and people just beating each other up. It sounds like a good time. And they should have kept that in the movie.
Absolutely. Just the idea of Gary Busey like throwing a shit piss fit over the couch. Shit piss fit, yes, over the couch would be great. So one of the first things I noticed in this movie, did you catch it? So I couldn't confirm it because no one's taken the time to do any like little factoids about this movie, because why would you? Mm-hmm. I'm 99% sure they show up at Biodome for like multiple times throughout this movie, like the Pauly Shore, Stephen Baldwin movie. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure the big building that they're in, that they're calling his office, is the Biodome from that movie. Like it's got the same outer exterior, the same long like glass walkway to go in. The doors look similar, that they lock in between it. If it's not the same building, they sure did a good job of making it look that way. So I don't know why Gary Busey is making shitty video games out of the Biodome, but apparently we're going with it.
I haven't seen Biodome in so long, so I can't really comment on it, but I mean, I'd take your word for it. If you told me that in earnest, I'd agree with you. I'd believe you.
I tried looking it up while I was still watching the movie, and like I said, trying to find factoids about this movie. No one cares to write. You'd have to find Jesus to do it, because no one cares.
And the director of this movie is William Byron Hillman, and he was actually, I think he made a few movies before this that were like this whole Christian aspect, but now he runs a film studio that I think is called Destiny. I think the website is destinyfilmsforyou.com. And there are all these movies on there that look like it's like a shell company or like a tax haven, where they're just making these movies. They're all in production, and there's all these things that are in production that haven't been completed yet. But he's the director or the producer. He has his hand in it somehow. So this movie included, it just feels so shady. Like there's something about the look of the movie. It's not shot on video, but it's not shot on film, and it feels like it must be some kind of early digicam or something, that it just looks like shit.
Did you notice that they couldn't spring for a Steadicam? Like the camera was always just kind of... You ever watch like a video on... I know you don't use TikTok, but on like Instagram or something like that, where someone's walking around with the camera and you just see the camera kind of sway a little bit with... It does that through almost the entirety of this movie, and it fucking annoyed me. It's like, again, shaky cam's fine if you're running through the woods and there's a demon chasing you or whatever, you're using it for some kind of effect. But if you just can't hold the camera steady when it should be steady, you're fucking obnoxious.
Well, this guy has directed all these different movies, but this movie technically is a mess. Like the framing is all over the place. There are scenes where people are talking to each other and they're cutting back and forth, and they all look like they're just standing on their own because there's no one else in the frame. When you watch a regular movie, sometimes there's like an over the shoulder view and you can see someone's mouth moving as they're talking, or maybe that it's not, or whatever. And one scene in the same scene, the camera angle will show somebody from like their head will almost be cut off of the frame. And then the next one, it's like they overcompensated and it's like way too high and you can only see like the very bottom of their face. It's just...
Sometimes it will do it without changing the camera shot. Like the camera will just kind of gradually like drop. And then
tired.
someone will nudge the camera guy and it'll kind of shake back up to where it's supposed to be. So
Wake up, Charlie.
Yeah, it's very not good. And the other thing that's like, so we did not go into this movie knowing that this was a Christian born-again film. No. In retrospect, maybe we should have guessed, but I got maybe like 30 minutes into this. I was like, God, this feels a lot like one of those shitty Christian bookstore type movies that they just... Because, I don't know if you've ever seen one of those or any of those, but they all are the same type of like, rehashing something that's been done in Looney Tunes 30 or 40 times, but doing it with like this really half-assed God twist on it. And that's exactly what this movie is. It's the story of the guy who dies early, young, tragically, whatever you want to call it, goes to heaven.
None of the above, but okay.
Whatever. He dies. He goes to heaven. They say, get the fuck out of here and do something good in the next, questionable amount of time. And they send him back to Earth. And he's essentially a ghost and has to right an entire lifetimes of wrongs in like 5 minutes. They did really good on The Simpsons when Homer started dropping bodies into traffic. That was pretty funny.
Just like The Good Son.
Yeah, more or less. With that being said, is there anything that you actually like about this movie?
Well, I mean, no, not really. I did like, so at the very beginning of the movie, and it's in the trailer, if you do check out the trailer, we'll have it linked in the show notes. He slips on this fake dog shit, and he kind of does like a whoop, whoop, whoa, it's like goes his slip. Feet. Yeah, exactly. It's very slapstick. I like that part. I thought that was pretty entertaining.
I thought it was funny that none of the shit ends up on him after he slips on this gigantic pile of shit, and he's undispersed.
Big dog turd. Right. There's not a speck of turd on his suit. Yeah. I did like when he shows up with the collar, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but he looks like, I think he somewhat resembles either Matthew Lillard from SLC Punk mixed with that dude. I think Billy Connolly plays the zombie in Fido. That look where he had that zombie movie with where they domesticate the zombie. I feel like he kind of has a cross between those two characters when he's like the dog, when he's Quigley, but he's Gary Busey as Quigley.
Well, it's fun because they make him wear this like Hot Topic like S&M collar essentially, which doesn't make sense because Quigley the dog doesn't wear. I don't think the dog wears a collar at all. I don't think he has a collar at all. Yeah, but yeah, they put Gary Busey in this one complete with the little like metal hook for bondage stuff, and it does look like the two characters you mentioned. Again, to harpen back to Biodome, there's a scene where they're all goth in it for a second. They have one of these on there too. I was like, oh, maybe they just found it still in the Biodome from previous recordings. I don't know.
Maybe that's how God controls them is the collar.
S&M.
Like he has to have the collar. Yeah, he has to have
God's
the collar.
really Busey, fucking kinky. So.
Busey has to have the collar on so God can control him.
I like it. So God's got a little whip and some thigh highs on or some shit. Yeah. Some boots that go up to his like waist. I like some of the unintentional, comically funny one-liners that Gary Busey has. One of them we've already mentioned. This is less entertaining than cleaning a short person's teeth. I don't even know what that means, and I assume having watched, this is the fourth Gary Busey movie in a row, third that you'll hear, but I can only assume this is a line that he improvised, and I don't know how you even think up a line like that. And he's got a couple of them like that.
Teeth.
And he's got a couple lines like that. It's like, where the hell did that come from? But
yeah,
that's kind of one of the highlights of some of the stupid things that come out of Gary Busey's mouth. And I kind of like Gary Busey's like shitty disposition throughout this entire movie. Like, I know now that this is him. I didn't realize he's like all born again or like religious now. And I understand it's all post motorcycle accident stuff, but I like that he's just kind of surly about it through the whole movie. Like, apparently this is like a passion project for him of some kind, because I don't know why else he would do it. And he's just like generic grumpy shithead through this whole movie, but he's not being what you would think when I say that about Gary Busey. He's doing that while still being very G-rated and non-offensive. Just kind of like, I don't know, if I can't even think of if Jeff Bezos was like a Christian or something and trying to atone for his sins. Like, that's kind of what they're trying to portray. It's unintentionally kind of funny, but not enough to say, I want to watch this again.
Well, yeah, I mean, this movie's clearly aimed at like a family demographic, right? It's family friendly. You can watch it. It's not offensive. There's nothing in it that you would like cover your kids' ears or their eyes and be like, you can't, Billy, you don't watch that. That's not appropriate. Like, it's all very appropriate or family appropriate. And they feel like they're going towards this like America's Funniest Home Video level of humor, but they never, everything that
find
they're
the humor.
Yeah, exactly. They're intentional. They're like unintentionally, the parts that are not trying to be funny are stupid and kind of funny. And there's parts where it's like, they're trying to be funny, but it so misses the mark. There's this whole like subplot of the dog catcher that's trying to catch Quigley. And, you know, there's scenes where he's off the side of the screen, like pulling this net and it's pulling him back and stuff. And then he ends up coming around the corner and he has this like tiny dog in a net or something stupid. And you're like, that's not even amusing. Or the whole janitor situation where the janitor's trying to capture the dog and but he doesn't even realize
for some reason.
At first, when the janitor shows up, I thought he had a Spanish accent or something, and then it like morphs into this German accent after a while, which is
and it doesn't
really
make sense
weird.
either way.
No,
like, there's no reason or payoff for, not that you get a payoff from Nazi jokes very often, but it just doesn't fucking fit in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I don't know. I did find the scene. So there's the CD, and the thing with this movie, okay, before I get into the CD thing, they do a really shitty job because Gary Busey is himself, Archie, like not in Quigley form, for only a few minutes of the movie before he gets in a car accident. So he gets in this car accident. He's trying to avoid this dog another Pomeranian that he sees on the road. It's like whatever that Pacific Coast Highway shit, you know, he's just driving and he sees a dog and he swerves out of the way and the car rolls over or whatever.
Which also doesn't make sense because he hates dogs. Like the idea that he would swerve to not hit this Pomeranian doesn't fit
ridiculous.
His character.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the character, but they do so little to explain anything. Like there's this they go into kind of the story where he's this joker. He's pulling practical jokes. But he doesn't do it in the movie at all. They just kind of mention it and they just in passing, like they hand wave it away. Oh, he's such a prankster. And he's gone. Like he tells everybody that he's leaving. He tells Curtis Armstrong, Pearsley, that he's leaving for a few days. He doesn't say anything about it. It's just, hey, while I'm gone, you're in charge. Do what I would do. Like make the decisions I would make or act like I would act or whatever he says, something to those effect. And then Busey gets in the accident. And then immediately nobody knows that he's been in this accident, mind you. But everybody in the office immediately refers to him as if he has already died. And it just doesn't make any sense. There's like, why would they like, oh, if Archie was still here, he would make us do this. And it's like, doesn't make any sense. Like you haven't really explained like why he's such a bad guy in the first place.
No, they don't really explain that. They explain that he doesn't like dogs, but that's about it.
And the CD-ROM, he like hides the CD, but they don't tell you what it is. And then when he's going to try to get rid of it when he's Quigley and he drops it like a Pomeranian, when he's sitting on his sitting like a dog sits, his mouth is maybe like 3 inches from the ground, maybe 4 or 5 inches from the ground.
Not much.
He drops this. Yeah. He drops the CD onto the desk from where he would be sitting and it shatters.
It's not usually what CDs do. But
no, I mean, you could throw a CD against the sidewalk and it might not even break. Like you might not be able to listen to it.
This is totally unrelated from what you were just saying, but how'd you like Osgood Perkins when he randomly got into a Foot Locker costume after they were in the dog pound?
I was like, this guy just got off his shift? What the fuck? What's up with the stripes?
I literally was like, why the fuck is he dressed up like he's at Foot Locker to go into the dog pound? Like, if they had dressed him up like a dog catcher, maybe that would make more sense. Or even, I don't know, a cop or something. But why are you dressed up like a Foot Locker employee? And he doesn't even look like a referee. He looks distinctly like a Foot Locker employee.
I feel like everybody in this movie looks like they owe somebody money. Like, why else?
Well,
why would you be in this? Like, we've got two people I didn't even mention. I think you pronounce his name Bill Fagerbach. Is that his name? The guy that he's the voice of Patrick on SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, I have.
And he was Dauber from Coach. And then Dorian Wilson. They play the security guards that are kind of like the bumbling security guards. They're not like household name people, but if you've seen their face, you're like, yeah. Like, oh, I recognize that guy. Yeah. Why is he in this? Who did he?
And he doesn't do anything.
Hurt?
He literally doesn't do anything. Yeah, they just
bumble around.
Like, for like 2 seconds, and then they're done. It's like, I'd say, I guess they cashed a paycheck, and maybe they did, but that paycheck couldn't be more than $20. They probably paid more in gas getting there to shoot this than they would have gotten paid to be in it. But fuck do I know?
then there's that whole the second part of the story. So he needs to try and somehow get this disc so it doesn't play, and that like saves people. But there's this whole extended sequence of the chase in the building. And
don't they say at some
point
like
dogs.
The disc is? Don't they say at some point the disc is basically just going to like fire half the staff or something like that? Isn't that what the joke is on it? Something shitty like that.
Yeah, it's going to do something bad for the company. But the way that even the IMDb like story, the summary that whoever wrote, who Anonymous wrote, they make it seem like the devil's going to come out if they listen to this CD, or if it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's supposed to own a software company that's building this VR shit, and that whole subplot is the CD and got to get rid of it so people don't get fired and whatever. The two coworkers, they fall in love within like minutes of meeting each other over Quigley. And then the second part of the movie is all about Christopher Atkins, who is Archie's brother. Yeah, Archie's brother. And that whole thing with he tries to make he's trying to make ends meet, and he's making video games in his spare time. And these are the loserest video games.
I was gonna say, if these are the video games that you're making, you deserve to be
I've ever
unemployed.
played.
It's literally like a pudgy kid skipping stones on a lake in like 16-bit at most. Like, it's fucking the worst excuse for a game.
It's like clip art that has a voiceover.
You know what? Let's back the track up here just a second. This movie is about. So it's an hour and a half runtime, but there's about 40 minutes of movie in here that's padded with about 45 minutes of bad clip art like cutscenes where it's just Quigley the dog clip arting his ass around town, not doing shit. Like, just, it's like someone gave this director a memo and said movies are usually about an hour and a half long, and he just added a bunch of clip art to stretch out the runtime with terrible fucking music. But
I was going to mention the music. Yeah, the music it's music to kill to. It's like what serial killers listen to when they kill people. It has to be. I
mean, depending on the serial killer, you're probably right. They probably make them play this fucking video game at the same time. You know what? You know what? We just answered my question earlier about the fucking Gilgo guy. He was probably just sitting there making these women watch Quigley, making him play this stupid rock skipping game and do clip art. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, there's 20 some odd bodies scattered all over the beach.
Yep. So let the bodies hit the floor.
I mean, how much more shit do we have to get out on this? Like,
I want to say, like, the premise of the movie that kind of, you know, when we heard of the premise of the movie, it sounds like such an entertaining thing.
Gary Busey as a dog.
Gary Busey plays a dog, and sometimes the scenes will be Gary Busey in a collar and he's playing as the dog, and other times it'll be the dog, and they do this hokey effect where the dog will go behind a bush and then Gary Busey will like walk out, or sometimes they'll just pan the camera away and come back. I mean,
I do like when they make them come out on all fours. That is a little entertaining because they have them on all fours 2 or 3 times throughout the movie, and I'm kind of shocked that he was willing to do it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, he was in the cage, the dog cage, and on his hands and knees. I was like, this guy's old, like at this point,
right? He's been in a motorcycle accident, if you haven't heard.
Right. Without a helmet on.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just really nonsensical. It doesn't, everything's so paper thin. The human interactions are very short, but unbelievable. Like, people fall in love, or the day is saved by just essentially something. I don't know. Like you said, it feels like a 45-minute movie. Yeah. That they put a bunch of shitty songs in and clip art in, and called it a day. They're like, I heard movies are supposed to be about an hour and a half. This one's an hour and a half now. Cool. Cut and print. Let's go. Let's sell this thing.
Cut, print, Jesus. So
there you go.
And that's what's interesting. Like, I'd be curious to know how much money they made selling this fucking movie in these bookstores and stuff, because I'm sure there's no like budget being reported on this. I haven't even looked. I'm scrolling down now.
1.7 mil.
How the fuck do you... How much of that went to Gary Busey?
1.7 mil. Yeah.
How much of that went to Gary Busey? Like,
yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if this made like $5 million just being sold in different Christian bookstores and shit like that across, you know, the country and wherever else they distribute to, because it's a stupid world we live in.
I bet they're rolling in it from selling the rights or streaming it on Tubi.
That's exactly it. And I'm sure this is gonna jumped to the top of everyone's algorithm on Tubi because of this episode. So let's not spoil it. Let's get right to hot dogs, since I'm already running out of interesting things to say about this movie. So what time
Then
is
you're
it?
in for a big treat, bro, because it's hot dog time.
So I'll go ahead and start. If you haven't figured it out, this movie's not very good. It's not a hot dog. It's really not worth watching. If you want to see Gary Busey acting like a dog, I'd actually recommend looking up a couple clips on YouTube and just getting the 2-minute Cliff Note version. That's probably as good, if not better, than what you're going to see. There's really nothing that's done all that well, aside from saying, oh, there's Gary Busey, or oh, there's the Biodome. Maybe, oh, there goes Booger, if you have any admiration for the man that is Booger. Okay, but there's really nothing that's good enough about this movie to say that it's redeeming qualities that make me want to put this movie on for anyone other than to torture them, which includes myself. So I don't really recommend watching it. You can. It's on Tubi. Good luck if you try to get through this, but as far as Easter miracles that go, this one's pretty lackluster. Sean?
Whose hot dog is this? Is it yours?
Wow, this is not great. Obviously, the premise of the movie is what interested me, and kind of suggesting it to John that we should watch it for Busey Month. It has potential for hilarity, but I think the most offensive thing about the movie, besides how shittily it's made, is just how boring it is.
Exists.
Yeah, and it's just super boring. The best part of the movie are the barks that they dub in when Gary Busey gets upset and he's like a human. There's the dog barks that they dub in as if it's supposed to come from him, but it is not worth watching for that. This gets no hot dogs from me. I would rather starve than watch or recommend this movie to anyone. I didn't even enjoy it in a it's so bad it's good kind of way, and the music makes me want to murder. This should be so much fun. I mean, it just has so much potential to be fun, and it's just not. I'm waiting for redemption with the sequel, Quigley 2, supposedly starring Scott Baio and James Duvall, not to be confused with Robert Duvall. I don't know who the fuck James Duvall is, but I don't have high hopes for that. There is a Quigley 2 book that I found on Amazon that is about the dog Quigley. Maybe I can just be satisfied reading that. Yeah, no hot dogs. No hot dogs from me.
The power of Christ impales you. That's what happens when you listen to the soundtrack. With that in mind, we're going to switch gears because I want to. And this week's question of the week was still about Gary Busey. And since this has become an Easter special, the question is, Gary Busey just challenged the Easter Bunny to a fistfight. Who wins and how? So we'll start over on Facebook, and there is a bit of a theme with answers on this, which seems to happen a lot lately. Over on Facebook, our first response is from our friends over at Dissect That Film, and they are telling us that he rips that Easter Bunny to shreds with those big old chompers. So that means right there, that's a vote of confidence for the Buse. The Buse is loose, apparently. Didn't get any responses on Instagram today, but we'll go over to Blue Sky where there were a few more responses. And our friends over at Podcast in the Woods, another good show on the You Run Podcast Network, they're saying, Gary Busey is so crazy, I could see him ripping the bunny into pieces with his gigantic teeth and then feasting on the Easter Bunny's flesh. So, again, 2 points for teeth. I want to point out, rabbits had big teeth too, especially if they're like man-sized rabbits. But our friends over at Doom Generation Podcast say, depends on who's in the suit. It should provide enough protection from the gnash of his teeth unless he rips a head off right away. But it's just a standout hired. But if it's just a standard hired mall bunny, Gary will definitely win. To which our friends over at the Krusty Boys, You Can Eat That Crust podcast replied to Doom Generation Pod, not to us. They don't reply to us because we're in a death feud or something. They stopped hiring run-of-the-mill mall bunnies in '82 when they unionized. All the mall bunnies now, at the very least, have SAG cards and basic training in fight choreography. It's really not a game to them any longer, and frankly, I'm upset now. So I think the Krusty Boys are brushing up their wrestling skills against mall Easter bunnies. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, get those headlocks in and figure fours.
So those were our only replies this week. I don't know if this was too weird or just maybe everyone else had a shitty Monday too. Sean, do you have an answer to this? Who wins in a fight between the Easter Bunny and Gary Busey?
I don't think they get in a fight. I think that they share their love of carrots and their big teeth and just go to town. It's like a kumbaya moment.
I think they have a mutual suicide pact. They watch Quigley and they get into a car or a motorcycle or both and finish what they started. So that's it.
If we could only be so lucky, John.
I think that's all we got for this week. I think we've covered Quigley quite thoroughly enough. We did kind of switch order around, so we will have 2 more episodes for Gary Busey month still coming. So we're going to rebound nicely next week and then have something else for you.
Guess who forgot there were 5 weeks in April?
Both of these guys did. Again.
Yeah, exactly.
Sound familiar? So,
oh, man.
These months, we got to really start thinking about theme months when they don't have 5 Tuesdays. But that is not this month. That's not what we're doing. We're gonna see it through and do another Gary Busey movie because we're committed or need to be committed, something like that. Yeah. In the meantime, though, you can, if you'd like, you can follow us on all the social medias. We are at crap.town on Blue Sky. That's where primarily I am, and you can listen to me ramble about stuff. Or we're at Dewey Pod Monster on all the social media platforms. If you search Dewey Pod Monster, you're probably going to find us, unless we're not on that network. You can also find us on our site, which is crap.town. We have a YouTube page, which is YouTube/Dewey Pod Monster. You can go to our other site, which is Rotten Tomatoes. It just takes you to crap.town. I might have said the YouTube address wrong. Sean's looking at me like I'm an idiot. I don't know.
YouTube/Dewey Pod Monster.
YouTube.com/whatever.
Something.
No one goes there anyway. Oh, and you can also go to yourunpodcast.com and find all the other great shows or our show at yourunpodcast.com. Sean, what am I forgetting about other than fucking up usernames, handles, and web addresses?
Well, you also made a no-no in that man's briefcase. But if you want to answer the question of the week, you can find us at Dewey Pod Monster on all the social medias like John just mentioned. You can also, if you're interested in anything that you heard about on the show, we leave show notes. If you go on your podcast platform of choice, you can look at those notes. We try to make most of those links free. Occasionally, some of them are from Amazon. If you click an Amazon link, that is an affiliate link. Anything you buy off Amazon after you click our link, we get a small cut of that, usually like 0.1% or something. So if you want to support the show, that's the best way to do it. Click those links, buy that stuff, and we can get a penny for the million that you spend. On top of that, if you want to follow me on Blue Sky, I'm exclusively on Blue Sky. You can find me at internalbleeding.crap.town. That is my Blue Sky handle. And I post really stupid clips when I think about it of movies and stupid shit that I watch. So if you like stupid shit, you might like that shit. Check it out.
Who doesn't like stupid shit? So
I don't know.
Well, that's it. That's all we got for this week. We'll be back next week and not talk about another Christian movie. In fact, this might be the last time we talk about a straight up Christian movie like this.
We were duped.
I don't know. We were duped. So have a good week and swill up.
Swill up. Blah, blah, blah.
Do you want me to send you the interview that he does on this? It's only like 3 minutes, but it feels like it's 20 minutes. It's basically him talking about Jesus for 20 minutes or 3 minutes.
I mean, I don't feel need to watch it.
Good.